Hello everyone, I am going to provide the detailed summary of the famous novel, Great Expectations, written by Charles Dickens. But before I start it, if you are new to my channel, then please like and subscribe the channel. Let's start it. First, you should know that Great Expectations is a novel set in 19th century England during the Victorian era. The story is narrated by Pip, an orphan boy who lives with his abusive older sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, and her kind-hearted husband, Joe Gargery, a blacksmith. The novel explores themes of social class, ambition, guilt, and redemption as Pip grows from a humble boy into a young man with great expectations. The story begins with Pip as a young boy living in the marshes of Kent. One day, while visiting his parents' graves, he encounters an escaped convict named Magwitch, who threatens Pip into bringing him food and a file to remove his chains. Pip, terrified but compassionate, steals the items and delivers them to Magwitch. Pip's life changes when his uncle, Mr. Pumblechook, arranges for him to visit Miss Havisham, a wealthy and eccentric woman who lives in a decaying mansion called Saddis House. Miss Havisham was jilted at the altar years ago and has since lived in isolation, wearing her wedding dress and stopping all the clocks at the exact moment of her betrayal. Pip meets Estella, Miss Havisham's beautiful but cold-hearted adopted daughter, who is raised to break men's hearts. Pip instantly falls in love with Estella, but she treats him with disdain, calling him common and mocking his rough manners. Despite Estella's cruelty, Pip becomes infatuated with her and dreams of becoming a gentleman to win her affection. He feels ashamed of his humble background, especially of Joe, whom he loves but begins to see as common and unrefined. Pip's life takes a dramatic turn when a lawyer named Mr. Jaggers informs him that an anonymous benefactor has provided him with great expectations. Pip is to move to London, receive a generous allowance, and be educated as a gentleman. Pip assumes that Miss Havisham is his benefactor and that she intends for him to marry Estella. In London, Pip befriends Herbert Pocket, a cheerful young man who teaches him the manners of a gentleman. Pip becomes accustomed to a life of luxury, but he grows increasingly snobbish and distant from Joe and his old life. He is embarrassed by Joe's visit to London and treats him coldly, which deeply hurts Joe. Meanwhile, Pip continues to visit Estella, who remains aloof and indifferent to his feelings. She warns him that she has no heart and cannot love him, but Pip remains hopeful. Miss Havisham encourages Pip's infatuation, seemingly to fulfill her own desire for revenge on men. Pip's world is turned upside down when the convict he helped as a child, Magwitch, reveals himself as Pip's true benefactor. Magwitch, who was exiled to Australia, made a fortune there and secretly funded Pip's education and lifestyle as a way to repay Pip's kindness. Pip is horrified to learn that his wealth comes from a criminal and that Miss Havisham never intended for him to marry Estella. Despite his initial disgust, Pip grows to care for Magwitch and decides to help him escape England, as he is still wanted by the law. With Herbert's help, Pip devises a plan to smuggle Magwitch out of the country. However, their plan is foiled when Magwitch is captured and injured during the attempt. Before his death, Magwitch learns that Pip has grown to love him, and he dies peacefully, knowing he has been forgiven. Pip also discovers that Estella is Magwitch's daughter, a fact that shocks both of them. Miss Havisham, consumed by guilt for her role in Pip's suffering and Estella's coldness, begs Pip for forgiveness. In a tragic accident, she is badly burned in a fire and dies shortly after. Pip, now penniless and humbled, returns to his hometown. He reconciles with Joe, who has always loved him unconditionally, and begins to rebuild his life. Pip works hard to repay his debts and becomes a clerk in Herbert's business, finding contentment in honest work. At the end, Pip meets Estella in the ruins of Saddis House. She has softened after her suffering, and they walk away together, hinting at a possible future together. I hope you have enjoyed this summary, but please don't forget subscription to this channel. Thank you.